session of the day is understanding the novel coronavirus, how it behaves and spreads. The virus that causes COVID-19 belongs to the family of coronavirus that causes many illnesses, including the common cold and the flu. However, this is a new and previously unknown strain of coronavirus. There is no record of this virus in known history. This is the reason why scientists are unable to figure out the disease. No wonder that so far it has perplexed scientists and the general population alike. Since it first appeared in Wuhan, a province in China, it has rapidly spread to all parts of the globe. Now, even more than months after the break, we still don't have a vaccine and cure for it. There are still a lot of misconceptions about how this disease spreads and how exactly it affects the person. Scientists have no data to fall back on. This makes it even more difficult for them to understand the disease. There is a lot of confusion among the general population too. In the early days of the pandemic, fever, cold, cough, and breathing difficulties were thought to indicate infection. But as the time is going by, more severe complications are coming to light. There is still a lot of confusion surrounding the nature of the virus and how exactly it affects the human body. To clear the air, joining us for this very first session are three very eminent doctors who have been leading the war against this pandemic from the front line. First, we have Dr. Anup Misra. Dr. Misra is the chairman of Fortis Center for Diabetes, Obesity and Cholesterol, popularly known as Fortis CDOC. He also heads the National Diabetes, Obesity and Cholesterol Foundation. Dr. Misra is a recipient of Dr. B.C. Roy Award, the highest Indian award in the medical category. He was also awarded with Padma Shri in 2007 for his contribution to Indian medicine. In May this year, Dr. Misra presented his paper, India and COVID-19, Need for More Research at the Stanford Medicine International COVID Conference. At another international conference organized by Harvard Medical School, he shared his insights about COVID-19 in patients with diabetes in India and strategies to overcome challenges in diabetes care. Dr. Misra, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Pooja.
Our other panelist for the day is Dr. Srinath Reddy. Dr. Reddy is a cardiologist and a world leader in preventive cardiology and public health. He is presently serving as the president of the Public Health Foundation of India, which is engaged in capacity building in public health in India through education, training, research, policy development, health communication, and advocacy. Prior to this, he headed the Department of Cardiology at All India Institute of Medical Sciences. He was awarded with the Padma Bhushan in 2005. Professor Reddy is a member of ICMR's COVID-19 Task Force and the Executive Group of International Steering Committee of WHO's COVID-19 Solidarity Triumph. Under his able guidance, PHFI is providing technical support to central and state governments on COVID-19. Dr. Reddy, welcome to the Health Summit.
Thank you.
And now I'd like to introduce our third panelist, Dr. Randeep Guleria. Dr. Guleria is the director of the All India Institute of Medical Sciences. He has been credited with the establishment of India's first Center for Pulmonary Medicine and Sleep Disorders at AIIMS. He was honored by the Government of India in 2015 with the Padma Shri, the fourth highest civilian award in the country. He is associated with the World Health Organization as a member of its scientific advisory group of experts on immunization and influenza vaccination. Dr. Guleria also has been pivotal in driving India's battle against the COVID-19 pandemic. He heads the clinical research group within the National Task Force set up by the Indian Council of Medical Research. Also, Dr. Guleria is spearheading the human trials of Covaxin and AIIMS. It is India's first indigenous vaccine against COVID-19. Welcome, Dr. Guleria.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So, my first question goes out to you, Dr. Guleria. Data suggests that the COVID-19 curve is flattening in Delhi and the city may have already crossed the peak. The number of active cases are also declining. What, according to you, could be the reason behind this now?
So I think a lot of effort has gone in by the government, both the central and the state government, in trying to flatten the curve. If you remember, almost about a month ago, there was a huge panic in Delhi that we will run out of beds and there will be huge spike in the number of cases. The projections had been for 30th June and 15th July pretty frightening. At that point in time, a lot of aggressive action was taken by the Delhi government and the central government in terms of developing task force and trying to develop very aggressive containment strategies, screening, and bringing out testing in a big way. The rapid antigen test was rolled out in the country and it was started. It was actually almost like being done in polling booths so that anyone who had influenza-like symptom could be tested right at that point, and you had a result in 15 minutes and you could quickly isolate people and thereby decrease the number of cases. So the whole policy of containment, of testing, tracking, isolation was very, very aggressively done. And really, there was an increase in number of testing. I think that has really helped. At the same time, a lot of hospital resources were increased. We had the DRDO making a 1,000-bed hospital near the airport, and that was also built up as a backup. All of this has actually helped, and we've seen a decrease in the number of cases, not only in terms of what have been reported, but also in terms of hospital admissions. From a time when we had more than 800 patients admitted in a hospital over COVID positive, we have come down to less than around 400 to 450 patients now. So there has been almost a 50% decline in the number of patients. However, the two things I'd like to say, one is that we still are seeing sick patients and there continues to be a significant number of sick patients. And secondly, although the number of cases have come down, we need to still continue these measures of testing, tracing, isolating, and maintaining the physical distancing and wearing a mask, because as has been seen in many cities, not only in India but also in the US, that if you let your guard down, the cases again start increasing. There's a resurgence of cases because the virus is still lurking in the population and it can come back very, very easily.
So, Dr. Guleria, this is really, really heartening to know that Delhi has finally managed to control the spread of the virus. So, with this, I would also like to ask you that the National Center for Disease Control recently conducted a serological survey in Delhi. The findings suggest that the city is very close to achieving herd immunity. So, what is your take on this? Are we really heading towards the herd immunity?
I don't think we would say that we are actually close to herd immunity if you look at the data, because the data suggests that only around 23% of individuals had antibodies who were tested. It's a reasonably good number, but it also suggests that 77% of individuals are still susceptible. It also indirectly suggests that we have had some degree of spread of the disease, and there is a large number of individuals who have the disease but are asymptomatic, because all of these people were never RT-PCR or antigen positive. So there is significant amount of asymptomatic individuals or those who have mild symptoms and never get tested who also had COVID-19. So there is still a long way to go to develop herd immunity. But if we count these patients or these individuals and start looking at the infection case fatality rate, that means that rate is even much lower, because all of these individuals had mild COVID infection and recovered, and thereby the mortality is much lower than what we had initially anticipated.
So that makes it much clear, Dr. Guleria. Thank you. So, Dr. Misra, I'll come to you next. I know you've been waiting for a very long time, so sorry to keep you waiting. So, Dr. Misra, you're a part of a very, very active social media campaign on wearing face masks. So, I'd first like to ask you about that it is stated face masks reduce the risk of COVID-19 infection by as much as 65%. Is that actually true? And how effective are cloth or homemade masks in protecting us against the virus?
Thank you, Pooja. Let me tell you, we in the Twitter, um, we have a hashtag wear a face mask, be a face mask warrior. And we had a lot of support from Twitter, and we had shared a lot of experience. And yesterday itself, when I went for a walk, almost 50 out of 52 people which I met on the walk, 22 were not exactly wearing masks in the proper manner. I have a habit of telling them, seven people, I told them, and five complied, and two did not comply. And one of them said that I can't breathe when the mask is on. So this is the state of affairs currently in Delhi. And as Dr. Guleria has rightly said, if we are not going to observe a proper face mask wearing and social distancing, we are going to have another ascending curve in a short period of time. Now, as far as face masks are concerned, there are let me clarify this issue. Uh, One is the simplest is the cloth mask, and which can be made at home. It can be made with one layer or two layers. The usual coffee filter or tea filter can be put along with the cloth to make a mask. Now, this mask is okay. It is a physical barrier. It can be effective in around 40 to 50% of the cases, but not particularly effective. If a person comes near you who is emitting virus all the time. The second type of face mask which commonly used is the surgical face mask, which is a three-layered mask, and this has a capacity to stop around 2,000 micron, particles coming to you, which does not include virus. So virus will go through it. So it's, at the most is a physical barrier, and it is not tight fitting, and the things around it, spaces, and the virus and other particles will go through. So the third kind of mask, which is the N95 mask, is the mask which filters 95% of the any particle and will stop 100 to 300 micron particles from coming in. Now remember, the coronavirus has 120 micron, so it may stop coronavirus, though
Second, I
it
would
is
like to
not
ask you.
100%. And so this is something which is worn by a healthcare worker. So if suppose you're going out for a walk or meeting people, a surgical mask will be good enough. If you are dealing with an infected patient or a healthcare worker, it is the N95 mask. Now remember, there's a question going around that the mask with walls,
Yeah, so
are there any?
I was going to come to you about that. There is a lot of controversy going on around the mask with the walls because recently the center has written to all the union territories, also warning them against the use of N95 masks with walled respirators. So what is what is about this inappropriate use of this mask? What how do we need to know?
Let me tell you that as far as coronavirus is concerned, there is no controversy about these masks. These masks are not made for coronavirus because
Okay.
if you wear this mask, if you wear an N95 mask, you will get a lot of perspiration and heat over the face. And so to prevent that, there is a valve which you can exhale here air, and inhaled air is still filtered, so-called filtered. So actually, if you are asymptomatic coronavirus, harboring coronavirus, you will exhale coronavirus through this mask. So it is not good for coronavirus. It may be good for other particulate matters, but not for corona. So I tell all my patients, in case you are using N95, first you don't need to use, but in case please don't use valve or any kind of device which is plastic devices are also there, which are one way and so on. Uh, Two valves, one valve, and things like that. They should not be used in current situation.
Okay, so you're saying the cloth masks are the best in that case with
No,
air
I
filters?
would I would say if you are going out to meet people or you're going out for the walk, I think just surgical mask will do. Make sure that it covers up from here to here and a little tight fitting. Now remember, the surgical masks are have the strings which go beyond the ear,
Yeah.
which is not exactly tight fitting. And some surgical masks have the string which go all around. Now those are tight fitting, and N95 mask has those strings. So a fit has to be good, a cover has to be good, and surgical mask for most purpose will work. But a healthcare worker who's dealing with patients repeatedly, or specifically those with the coronavirus, must have a N95 mask, all the time. And there are various other advisories regarding that. I don't want to go into that.
Okay, okay. Thank you, Dr. Misra, so much for clearing the air on the use of which masks are the best. And now, Dr. Reddy, I ask you that it has been found that heart patients are more vulnerable to the COVID-19 infection. They are also likely to catch a more severe strain of the novel coronavirus. So, what extra precautions do existing heart patients need to take?
Any patient with a pre-existing heart disease is as likely as anybody else to get exposed to the virus. However, how extensively the virus takes up residence in the body and how fiercely it attacks various organs in the body with severe clinical consequences depends upon pre-existing risk in people with heart disease. Since this virus attacks not only the respiratory tract, but also affects the blood vessels because of the classical receptors, which are the gateways for the virus to enter the cells, called the ACE2 receptors. And these are found quite extensively in the body, particularly in the blood vessels. The people who have already had heart disease and have damaged blood vessels are more likely to have severe infection and also severe clinical consequences. And therefore, people who already have heart disease should be all the more careful in avoiding exposure to the virus by taking all the precautions that Dr. Guleria and Dr. Mishra have talked about. At the same time, if they have any symptoms suggestive of increasing breathlessness or any suggestion that they are having other manifestations of heart disease involvement getting aggravated, then they should be going to the doctor very quickly for consultation. Secondly, they must ensure that they're continuing their medication regularly, because any rise in blood pressure or any other deviation from a good control of their cardiovascular disease can cause a severe aggravation of the COVID infection should it occur. So there are many precautions that people with heart disease have to take. Firstly, to prevent the risk of exposure to the virus, then keeping a watch on possible complications, which can include arteries as well as the veins, and therefore, and the heart muscle itself, and therefore they ought to be quite quick in consulting their doctor about any issues they feel have resulted in aggravation of their pre-existing symptoms.
Sure, doctor. This would be very helpful, especially in Delhi. We have a lot of seniors who are heart patients, so these tips would surely help them. Also, doctor, it has been found that recovered COVID-19 patients are returning to hospitals with many cases of heart damage. Myocarditis has been found to be a common complaint of the follow-up patients. Why is it happening? And what other cardiac issues are being faced by recovered patients? I mean, those recovering, what are the kind of heart issues they're facing?
Well, one of the problems, of course, is that the virus not only infects the body, but also triggers a large number of immunological reactions. And some of these reactions can be counterproductive to the body. And therefore, the inflammatory conditions that are triggered by the virus can also affect the heart muscle, and that can result in myocarditis. Direct invasion by the virus of the heart muscle is very rare, but the outer layer of the heart, the pericardium, can be affected certainly. But mostly it is as a result of the inflammatory response of the body, which is also affecting the heart muscle and its function. It has also been seen that high levels of stress, which are induced by the infection and the confinement to intensive care, etc., can also result in some damage to the heart muscle. Stress-related cardiomyopathy or heart muscle disease is a well-recognized condition from other types of disease. And therefore, we recognize that the so-called broken heart syndrome can also occur here. But one of the things that we are very worried about is the extensive clotting tendency that occurs across the body, because the small blood vessels are affected and then microclots can form, and therefore microinfarcts in multiple organs can damage the body. But even larger clots can form in the veins and can travel to the lungs and compromise the lung circulation and put a great deal of strain on the heart. You can have heartbeat irregularities triggered called arrhythmias, and therefore multiple kinds of heart conditions can result because of the COVID virus infection affecting different parts of the body, but particularly the blood vessels.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Misra, for this. My next question, I'm coming back to you, Dr. Guleria. So we hear human trials of India's first indigenously developed corona vaccine, Covaxin, have begun at AIIMS. So if you could shed some light on the various phases of this trial.
So phase 1 trial has started. It will go through various phases. It will take a few months. This is a multi-centric trial being done in centers not only in Delhi, but in North and South India. And patients have already been enrolled. The initial data suggests that the vaccine is safe, but we need to follow up to see for long-term safety. And once we have that and we're able to give that to the Data Safety Monitoring Board, then we will look at a dose escalation and work on what is the ideal dose. And at the same time, what is the immunogenicity of the virus, which is also being looked at subsequently. So I think it's very early days to really say one way or the other, but it's a good beginning. And I think what is really heartening is that this is a vaccine which is being actually truly made in India. India is a big giant in terms of manufacturing, but for R&D, we have always been a little bit on the back foot. And now we have a large number of companies who have come forward. There is another vaccine which is coming out by the Serum Institute of India. And other Zydus Cadila is also in the process of having a vaccine. So a lot of indigenous vaccines should see human trials over the next few months, and these would all be actually made in India. And that is something which is really heartening, that we are moving forward in this area as far as research and development is concerned. So it's early days, but I think we have already started, and hopefully should see some good results in the next few weeks.
This is actually very, very heartening for all of us. And I'm sure it's really heartening for the doctors and the entire country that the vaccine is the trial are happening in India. So let's hope we find a breakthrough soon here. So Dr. Misra, let me come back to you again. Also, data suggests that patients with diabetes are more vulnerable to the COVID-19 infection. Their death risk also is more higher than the others. So why is it so? And what extra precautions should they be taking?
Okay, first part of your question was not very clear, but you're asking me about a diabetic patient who are vulnerable to infection.
I'll repeat my question, doctor. So I'm saying diabetic patients are found to be more vulnerable to the COVID-19 infection, and their death risk from the disease is also higher than the others. So why is it so, and what precautions should they be taking?
So there are three parts of the question. Number one, are diabetic patients more vulnerable to COVID-19 infection?
Yes.
Now, somehow this is not true. And most of the trials have shown that the vulnerability of COVID-19 to diabetic patients is not extraordinarily higher than other patients. But the second part of your question about the morbidity and mortality due to COVID-19 in diabetic patients, which is much higher than any other patient without diabetes. Now, why is it so? The diabetic patient have immunity which is down, with the T-cell immunity, which is main immunity against the COVID-19, which is markedly down, and that's why they get more tuberculosis. Here is COVID-19 playing havoc with them with a low T-cell immunity. And they have a higher cytokine levels. Cytokines are just अगर medical parlance में कहें तो interleukin 6 एक cytokine है. वो यूजुअली अगर नॉन डायबिटिक पेशेंट में देखें तो बहुत कम होता है, लेकिन डायबिटिक पेशेंट में काफी हाई होता है। और कोविड पेशेंट्स जो इन्फेक्ट करते हैं उनमें 100 टाइम्स हाई चला जाता है। वो करता है साइटोकाइन स्टॉर्म, जैसे कि एक तूफान सा आ जाता है साइटोकाइन। ये डायबिटिक पेशेंट में बहुत ज्यादा होता है। और साथ साथ में इसके साथ, जैसे डॉक्टर रेड्डी ने कहा कि हार्ट की प्रॉब्लम ज्यादा है, हाइपरटेंशन ज्यादा है, और ओबिसिटी। ओबिसिटी आपने आज का टाइम से इंडिया में देखा होगा, ओबिसिटी 80% ऑफ लोगों में होती है। उसमें भी थ्रोम्बोसिस, क्लॉटिंग का ज्यादा चांसेस होते हैं, और साइटोकाइन स्टॉर्म ज्यादा होता है। कुल मिलाकर डायबिटिक पेशेंट्स प्रॉब्लम में फंसते हैं अगर कोविड-19 होता है, और उनके डेथ या मोर्टेलिटी ज्यादा होती है। बट ये डिपेंड करता है कि उनकी डायबिटीज अच्छी कंट्रोल में, बेसलाइन में, एडमिशन में और ड्यूरिंग हॉस्पिटलाइजेशन में है। अगर तीनों वेल कंट्रोल हैं, दे विल बी एज गुड एज अ नॉन डायबिटिक पर्सन। एंड ऑल्सो कि उनको दवाएं क्या मिल रही है। फॉर एग्जांपल हाइड्रोक्सीक्लोरोक्विन कई लोग डायबिटीज के लिए लेते हैं। मेटफॉर्मिन एक अच्छी दवा है जो कि डेथ रेट को कम करती है। तो ये भी डिपेंड करता है कि वो दवाएं क्या क्या ले रहे हैं। तो अगर अच्छा कंट्रोल हो और उनकी शुगर हॉस्पिटलाइजेशन में ना बढ़े, उनकी मोर्टेलिटी मॉर्बिडिटी ज्यादा नहीं होगी। अब दूसरा क्वेश्चन है कि प्रिकॉशन क्या रहनी चाहिए। देखिए, प्रिकॉशन जो हम आप लेते हैं वही उनको भी लेना चाहिए। स्ट्रिक्ट डायबिटीज कंट्रोल बिल्कुल मैंडेटरी है। और हमने कुछ दिनों पहले पेपर लिखा था अलॉन्ग विद अ यूएस प्रोफेसर कि ग्लोबल कॉल टू रिकनेक्ट विद द पेशेंट। मतलब आप, पेशेंट आपके पास नहीं आए, पेशेंट के पास जाइए, आप उनसे कहिए कि आपका डायबिटीज कंट्रोल मोर देन एवर, दिस टाइम इट हैज टू बी वेरी वेल कंट्रोल। तो उनके पास जाइए, आप उनसे कनेक्ट करिए, और उनका एक्सरसाइज, उनके न्यूट्रिशियस डाइट एंड फ्रीक्वेंट ब्लड शुगर मॉनिटरिंग, एंड कनेक्ट विद योर diabetes specialist as soon as possible on teleconsultation. I hope that answers
Thank
your
you.
question.
Yes, definitely, doctor. I'm sure this will help a lot of diabetics there who've been really, really scared. One for I haven't allowed my mother to leave the house in the last 4 months. So I'm sure she's going to be very happy to hear this. Uh, Dr. Reddy, I'd like to come to you with my next question. So after the lockdown, India witnessed a major spike in COVID-19 cases. What public health measures should have been taken to prevent this? So where do you think we lagged in our measures? We started the fight well and suddenly we saw a spike. So what could be the reason for this?
Well, the problems lie at multiple levels. Firstly, after the lockdown, it's very clear that much of the action needed to be taken at the level of the state governments and even at the level of the district authorities. And there, early case identification as well as isolation, followed by very extensive and energetic contact tracing, and then examining the contacts for infection, all of that would have been required. And we have seen variable performance across various states in this. And we have not seen as good contact tracing as was required. We didn't see household surveillance for symptom-based syndromic surveillance as required in many cases. And we have also not seen the kind of strictness with which large public gatherings should have been contained. But at the same time, individual precautions which people should have taken also showed a great deal of laxity and variability across the country. There are some places in which people did adhere to masks and physical distancing to the extent possible, but there are many other places where they thought that the examination is over and they're like students celebrating immediately on the last day of the examinations. The moment the lockdown was lifted, and then large gatherings started with ignoring the masks, ignoring all the other precautions. And therefore, the virus had an easy opportunity to spread. So we do need effective governmental action, particularly at a district level decision making of what to contain, how much to contain, and how best to organize primary healthcare services for early case detection, testing, fairly extensive testing, as well as very energetic contact tracing. But at the same time, a great deal of personal discipline among people to not only take personal precautions, but to avoid large crowds and certainly ensure that the time they spent in indoor places is minimized to the extent possible.
Thank you, doctor. I think this goes for all of us. We're all started taking it a little easy now. Okay, so before I open the floor to the audience for questions, I had a question for all the doctors here. So you spend a lot of time with COVID-19 patients. So what measures do you personally take to protect yourselves and your families against the infection? Because I know you're out in and out of public spaces and the hospitals. So what measures are you taking to keep yourselves protected?
Okay. First of all, I stick to the same time schedule as I was taking earlier, whether it was lockdown or whether it's subsequently reopening. Same time, early morning, getting up, same exercise, or maybe I have increased the exercise to around 50% more. But what I have changed is my diet, more of fruits and vegetables. Now, if you know that the usual advisory is 3 to 5 servings of fruits and vegetables. Currently, WHO advisory during this epidemic is 8 to 9 servings of fruits and vegetables. Fruits and vegetables will give you everything, whatever is needed to fight COVID-19, increase your immunity. So whether it's a vitamin C, whether it's a zinc or anything else. So I have increased that. And beside the usual precautions, I take extra precautions while seeing my patients. And also I take extra care with my staff because after all, if they get infected, I get infected. So in my hospital, I'm proud to say this is the COVID-19 negative facility, and we have worked very hard to make it like that. It's a small hospital mainly for diabetes patients, but we are very proud that with all the measures and extra precautions that we have taken individually and the hospital level, we have made this facility absolutely COVID-19 negative.
That is really, really nice. So my one takeaway from you is increase your immunity, exercise, loads of fruits. Dr. Guleria, how are you keeping yourself safe?
So for me, it's a big challenge because not only is our hospital a COVID hospital, both my wife and my son are working in COVID hospitals, and we have this whole challenge every day because we're coming in contact one way or the other, and then having to quarantine ourselves, eat our food separately at times because of the fact that we are being exposed by coming in contact with patients. But I think a healthy lifestyle is the bottom line. All your precautions that we've been saying, you need to take them sincerely in terms of social distancing, wearing a mask, and protecting yourself. And having a good diet, fresh fruits, green leafy vegetables, and regular exercise, I think is the important thing. Getting good sleep is also something important. De-stressing yourself because these are stressful times, and you have a lot of challenges. You unfortunately see a lot of your colleagues getting infected, and some of them don't make it. So it's a really challenging time. And I think both getting good sleep, de-stressing yourself, and at the same time, a good diet and exercise are very, very important.
Thank you, Dr. Guleria. That is really, I think all the doctors are saying that we have to exercise, we have to eat healthy, maintain distance. And Dr. Reddy, what is your take? How are you keeping yourself safe?
Well, both Dr. Mishra and Dr. Guleria have spelled out the entire list of things to be taken. To the diet, I would only add nuts, because nuts also contain a large number of protective nutrients and which are helpful for immunity, and a fair amount of protein as well, because if you need to produce antibodies, then you need the protein as well. So balanced diet, but very rich in fruits, vegetables, and nuts would be ideal. And of course, try and reduce as much stress as possible. Because stress is one thing that greatly depresses your innate immunity. And you need a lot of innate immunity to fight this infection or any other infection. So try and relax as much as possible with the family whenever the opportunity arises. And do not fret too much about what's going to happen about the infection while taking all the precautions. So I would say my formula is care for personal care, caution in public places, and confidence that we can win this battle.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Reddy. So I'm going to start following all the advice. So exercise, of course, one's been doing, but yes, fruits and nuts is important. And now we'll just go on to the audience questions. I see a lot of questions here. So we'll take a few questions. There is a question for you, Dr. Mishra. So I'm just going to read the question. मुझे 5 सालों से थायराइड और अस्थमा है. So Kishori is asking this question. So she says मुझे 5 सालों से थायराइड और अस्थमा है. इन दिनों ज्यादा ENT की समस्याएं काफी बढ़ गई हैं. कोरोना हम जैसे मरीजों के लिए कितना खतरनाक है और हमें इसके बचाव के लिए क्या करना चाहिए?
देखिए, थायराइड तो इतना मेजर प्रॉब्लम नहीं पोज करेगा. ऑल्दो थायराइड फंक्शंस हो सकता है कुछ अप एंड डाउन जाएं अगर कोरोना वायरस हो जाए, बिकॉज इट में अफेक्ट थायराइड फंक्शंस ऑल्सो. बट ब्रोंकियल एस्थमा के पेशेंट्स, आई एम श्योर डॉक्टर गुलेरिया विल आंसर दिस इन अ बेटर मैनर. बट वो डेफिनेटली ससेप्टेबल हैं कोविड-19 बिकॉज चेस्ट को अटैक करता है. तो ब्रोंकियल एस्थमा के पेशेंट्स को बहुत ध्यान रखना चाहिए. बिसाइड्स जो कि हमने सारे लोगों ने प्रिकॉशंस बताए हैं और मास्क के लिए प्रिकॉशंस बताए हैं, उसके सिवा एस्थमा वाले लोगों को ज़रूर कुछ वैक्सीन भी लगानी चाहिए, जैसे कि निमोकॉकल वैक्सीन है या फिर फ्लू की वैक्सीन है जो कि और फ्लू को कवर करती है. ये भी लगानी चाहिए क्योंकि वो कोविड के सिवा उनको और भी इन्फेक्शन होने के चांसेस ज़्यादा हो रहते हैं. उनका एस्थमा जितना अच्छा कंट्रोल हो और उनका अगर साथ में कोई और कोमॉर्बिड डिजीज हो जैसे कि ब्लड प्रेशर, शुगर वगैरह, तो उसको भी साथ में कंट्रोल रखें. अपनी एक्सरसाइज मत भूलें और जैसा कि डाइट का डॉक्टर रेड्डी ने और डॉक्टर गुलेरिया ने और मैंने बताया है वो पूरा फॉलो करें. तो आई थिंक वो बचे रहेंगे, इस सब चीज़ों से बचे.
थैंक यू डॉक्टर मिश्रा. तो ये न्यूमोकोकल वैक्सीन हम वैसे भी लगवा सकते हैं, आई मीन इवन इफ दे आर नॉट फेसिंग एनी कोविड सिम्टम्स फॉर एस्थमा?
मैं तो अब वो तो डॉक्टर गुलेरिया आंसर ज़्यादा अच्छी तरह से कर पाएंगे, लेकिन मैं आपको डायबिटीज के बारे में बताता हूँ कि हमारे सारे डायबिटिक पेशेंट जो कि अबव 50 इयर्स ऑफ एज हैं, वो सारे हमारी प्रैक्टिस है उनको लगवाने की, तो वो बराबर लगवा रहे हैं. वो एटलीस्ट दूसरा इन्फेक्शन तो साथ में ना हो. और कभी कभी ये भी होता है कि जैसे एक इन्फेक्शन हुआ, उसने चेस्ट में अटैक किया, तो उसके बाद पता चला बैक्टीरियल इन्फेक्शन भी हो गया, निमोनिया भी हो गया उसके बाद. तो बट आई एम श्योर डॉक्टर गुलेरिया विल आंसर वैक्सीन के क्वेश्चन को ज़्यादा अच्छी तरह आंसर करें.
डॉक्टर गुलेरिया, सो आई विल कम टू यू विद द सेम क्वेश्चन.
हाँ, तो पहली चीज तो ये है कि जो दमा वाले पेशेंट्स हैं, एस्थमा वाले पेशेंट, उनको स्पेशल ध्यान रखने की जरूरत है. कई पेशेंट्स ये सोचते हैं कि वो अपना इनहेलर्स ना लें क्योंकि उनको लगता है अपना इनहेलर लेके अगर हम सांस अंदर खींचेंगे तो इन्फेक्शन हमारे छाती में चले जाएगा. तो मैं ये कहना चाहूंगा कि सबको अपना इनहेलर, स्पेशली इवन इफ इट इज द स्टीरॉयड इनहेलर, वो रेगुलरली लेना चाहिए. एस्थमा कंट्रोल इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट बिकॉज अगर आपका एस्थमा कंट्रोल नहीं और आपको कोविड इन्फेक्शन हो जाए, इट कैन बी मोर सीरियस. तो अपनी दवाई पूरी लें. वैक्सीनेशन इज इंपॉर्टेंट. वी हैव बोथ इन्फ्लुएंजा वैक्सीनेशन व्हिच वी गिव एनुअली एंड द न्यूमोकोकल वैक्सीन. न्यूमोकोकल की भी 2 वैक्सीन हैं. एक इज द सीरोटाइप वैक्सीन, द पीसीवी एंड द कंजुगेट वैक्सीन. तो सब लोगों को जो हाई ससेप्टेबल है, स्पेशली द ओल्डर एज ग्रुप, दे शुड एक्चुअली टेक both the vaccines after about at least 2 months or 1 year apart. The pneumococcal conjugate vaccine and the serotype, the polyvalent 23 vaccine, Pneumovac 23. तो वैक्सीन लगा लेना चाहिए मगर अपना कंट्रोल रेगुलरली रखें.
ये वैक्सीन किसी भी समय लगा सकते हैं थ्रू द ईयर?
So the influenza vaccine is an annual vaccine. तो उसके southern hemisphere और northern hemisphere के टाइम में आता है. तो it is a pre-winter और a pre-monsoon vaccine. तो वो हर साल सर्दियों से पहले लगाना चाहिए. न्यूमोकोकल वैक्सीन आप कभी भी लगा सकते हैं.
Doctor, I have another question for you from Dineshwari Longjam. So she says that initially COVID-19 infection was thought to be a pulmonary condition. Now patients complain of non-pulmonary symptoms too. So, for example, they experience gastrointestinal manifestation, loss of taste and smell, and even skin symptoms. How many cases of non-pulmonary COVID-19 have you witnessed so far, approximately? And is this prevalence high?
So when we started seeing COVID-19, जब हमने शुरू में COVID-19 के पेशेंट देखने शुरू किए, we always thought that it is just viral pneumonia. We realized that the COVID-19 causes a lot of systemic effects, a lot of what we call extra pulmonary effects. कि lung से बाहर भी उसके काफी effects होते हैं. And we had a lot of challenges. We've had some patients, young patients coming with stroke, and we did not suspect कि इनको COVID है, और वो हमारे neurology ward में admit भी हो गए, CT scan भी हो गया, उनका MRI भी हो गया, MR angio भी हो गया, और तब बाद में वो COVID positive हुआ, and it became caused a huge panic in our neurology ward. Similarly, we had patients who came with acute MI, cardiac events, and were admitted in the CCU. So we realize now that many patients who have some atypical presentation can actually be COVID-19. I myself saw a patient who presented only with diarrhea. He had fever and then was having diarrhea for 1 week, no respiratory symptoms. But because of the fact that the patient also had a lung problem, interstitial lung disease, a CT was done which showed florid changes of COVID-19, and then he was positive. So you have to have a high index of suspicion. And अब हम जब ज़्यादा अवेयर हो गए हैं, तो हम अब ज़्यादा ऐसे पेशेंट देख रहे हैं जिनको COVID-19 इन्फेक्शन है, और जो लंग से अलावा और इन्वॉल्वमेंट भी हो सकता है. I would say maybe around 10 to 20% definitely. It may be much more because many of these patients don't get tested because they don't think they have symptoms to suggest that it could be COVID-19.
So another reader who's asking, she's recently recovered from COVID-19, Aarti Mishra. So she's asking what precautions should be taken after recovering from COVID-19. Is there a chance that it comes back?
So, Abhi, we don't have enough evidence to say that you can have reinfection, but the time course of the disease is too small. You will have some immunity to some extent for some time. कितने महीने वो immunity रहती है वो कहना मुश्किल है, और बाद में सर्दियों में फिर infection हो सकता है या नहीं, ये अभी एक question है जो it's difficult to answer. I think the precaution that we were mentioning in terms of diet, in terms of exercise, we need to ask these patients to do. Many of them are sick, bedridden, and therefore there is a loss of muscle mass. So they need to develop a good diet, maybe a high protein diet. कुछ ऐसे पेशेंट्स होते हैं अनफॉर्चुनेटली जिनको रेजिडुअल डैमेज रह जाता है बॉडी में, देन दे हैव टू डू सम डिग्री ऑफ रिहैबिलिटेशन. वी हैव सम पेशेंट्स हु हैव लॉट ऑफ स्कारिंग इन द लंग and they go back and their saturation still is on the lower side. Some of them have required oxygen at home, and we then put them on an aggressive pulmonary rehabilitation program, regular exercises, yoga, जिससे उनकी lung की capacity बढ़ सकती है. And similarly for people who had a stroke, they need to go in for rehabilitation to really optimize their function. But most people actually have just generalized body aches, weakness. Some patients have complained of persisting cough कि उनको कई हफ्ते तक खांसी रहती है, सूखी खांसी, गले में खराश रहती है. ज़्यादातर कमजोरी, वीकनेस, माइल्डिया, जो पोस्ट वायरल सिंड्रोम है वो रहता है, और वो यूजुअली जस्ट विद गुड न्यूट्रिशन, मल्टीविटामिन, एक्सरसाइज से यूजुअली ठीक हो जाता है.
Thank you, Dr. Valeria. So my question, Dr. Reddy, there's a question for you. So Rashmi says there have been some cases in which people were still at home, yet they tested corona positive. So what is the reason behind this?
Of people staying at home testing corona positive?
Yes.
Well, if they stay completely at home, then the question is the infection may have been carried by other members of the family, or any visitors to the home, or people who are providing domestic services at home, like domestic workers, even a courier person delivering a courier package, or if you order a meal from outside, somebody coming in. So anybody could be actually carrying the virus. And therefore, it's not as though it's only your movement outside that is exposing you to the virus. Therefore, it is important that when you are actually having any kind of exposure or interaction with somebody who is coming in from the outside, then you should wear a mask and expect the other person also to wear a mask so that there is no virus entry. Now, the possibility of the virus being transmitted by objects, and whether it's newspapers or whether it is the groceries that are being supplied, that risk is there but very small. And usually the viruses don't survive for long there on that. It's usually from other human contact that we get it, and that's why the importance of wearing the mask becomes absolutely critical.
So, doctor. So the questions are endless. I think I'll have time to take in one more question. So there is a question from Shivam. He says, "Thank you, doctors, for fighting on the front line. क्या हमको पर्सनल व्हीकल में मास्क पहनना जरूरी है? After a while, it starts feeling suffocating. So, does it really help in controlling the spread if we're traveling alone in a vehicle and we're still wearing the mask? Do we need to do that?"
ओके, इट डिपेंड्स कि कौन कितने लोग हैं व्हीकल में। आपका ड्राइवर चला रहा है, आप अकेले चला रहे हैं, विंडोज खुली हैं, विंडोज बंद हैं, आपने क्या पहले लोग बैठे हुए थे वहां पर उनको डिसइंफेक्ट गाड़ी को डिसइंफेक्शन थोड़ा बहुत किया है कि नहीं किया है? अगर सपोज 4 लोग बैठे हुए हैं और आपका ड्राइवर चला रहा है और आप भी बैठे हुए हैं, तो हमको कोई गारंटी नहीं है कि उनमें से कोई पॉजिटिव है और ट्रांसमिट कर देगा, तो यू शुड वेयर मास्क। नाउ द अदर एक्सट्रीम इज कि आप अकेले चला रहे हैं, तो आपको उस समय शायद मास्क पहनने की जरूरत ना पड़े, एंड मे बी इट इज बेटर दैट यू पुट योर विंडोज डाउन so that there is a cross circulation of air, and if there's anything there which will be diluted or will be cross circulated. So this is what you should do. I personally, whenever I'm with the driver, I wear a mask. With any other person, I wear a mask. When I'm driving, I sometimes take off the mask. Now, one more just last thing for comment I would like to make is, besides the diabetes जो कि uncontrolled हो जाती है और problem होती है कोरोना वायरस से, new onset diabetes can be detected by during this time, क्योंकि कोरोना वायरस सीधे पैंक्रियास को डैमेज करता है, और टाइप 1 डायबिटीज जैसे होती है जिसमें पैंक्रियास डैमेज हो जाता है और कीटोसिडोसिस यानी कि एसिड शरीर में बनने लगता है। सिवियर टाइप ऑफ डायबिटीज हैज बीन सीन विद कोरोना वायरस इन्फेक्शन। तो न्यू ऑनसेट डायबिटीज, इसका मतलब हमारे जो ऑलरेडी इतने हाई नंबर है डायबिटीज के, वो इंक्रीज कर जाएंगे बिकॉज ऑफ लॉकडाउन एंड फर्दर न्यू ऑनसेट डायबिटीज जो अभी हो रही है। So we have to be very careful. Our national programs have to be strengthened. Everybody has to keep diabetes and blood pressure under control.
So, doctor, so I thank you so much, doctors. I mean, the questions are still continuing, but we will have to end the session here because we have our next panel lined up. But thanks a lot to all of you for giving us your valuable time. We all know how busy you are. So, thank you for doing this for us, and stay safe, all of you. And thanks for fighting for us. Thank you, doctor.
Thank you.
Thank you.